Sanibonani babukeli, sesifikile thina nentandokazi yohlelo nilithanda kakhulu ilungelo lakho, it's your right. Sinilethela lona la kumamba phambili SABC 1 iMzansi for show. Yazi ke mbukele, Miss Jolly is officially in the SABC building. 0117146918, alternatively 7146919. Those are the magic numbers ukuthi usithinte la studio. We are live. consumer@sabc.co.za is of course our email address. Siyatholakala futhi on Facebook. Mbukeli, kunokwesaba ke ngokuthi phela abathengi basengcupheni phela yokuba izisulu zobugebengu obulandelwa phela ukwebiwa kwemininingwane yabathengi abahluleka ukukhokha izikweletu zabo. Manje ke lemininingwane intshontshwe izigebengu kwengezi company ezaziwayo la eMzansi, kusetshenziswa uhlelo lezobuchwepheshe phela bamakhompyutha. Ongoti ke sebexwayisile abathengi ukuba baqaphele ngemininingwane yabo, kodwa ngaphambi kokuthi sikhulume kabanzi ngalolu daba ake sibheke nanku umbiko.
Inkampani ezigcina inkcukacha zabantu zisesichengeni zokubelwa ezo nkcukacha zizikrelemnqa. Oku kudizwe ngumbutho ojongene neenkonzo zokuthintelwa kobututu beenkcukacha zabantu nokusetyenziswa kwazo ngobuqhophololo, i-Fraud Prevention Services ngamafutshane. Kungoku nje abathengi beli basenovalo emveni kokuva ukuba hleze kuthi kanti iinkcukacha zabo zisezandleni zezizikrelemnqa. Oku kusemveni kokuba enye yeenkampani ezinkulu ezigcina uluhlu lweenkcukacha zabathengi abasindwa ngamatyala, iTransunion Credit Bureau, idize ukuba izikrelemnqa zityhoboze zeba iinkcukacha zabathengi kubuxhakaxhaka obuzigcinileyo. Kuqikelelwa ukuba bazizigidi ezintathu abathengi abangamaxhoba esisiganeko. Omazisi abazizigidi ezintandathu, 6 million, barhwetyeshiwe zezizigilamkhuba. Kwebiwe omazisi, iinkcukacha zonxibelelwano zalamaxhoba, iinkcukacha zobhaliso zithuthi kwaneenombolo ezikumaxwebhu ezivumelwano zabathengi zithuthi. Akusindanga nkqu iinkcukacha zabaqeshi baloo maxhoba.
Yeah, I'm worried, but the problem is you cannot trust anything. Who's this TransUnion? Where they come from? Huh?
I think it is quite worrisome because it means that we're not secure, our informations are not secure, and also we have no control of what they might actually do with the information that they have.
Our information is supposed to be, it was not supposed to be taken out to anyone because now the crime is too high, especially now that there is this technology that our information, can be utilized. So really it can be a problem for us.
The TransUnion hacking is worrying us because some of our personal information are there and they can be exposed to wrong people.
I'm raising a point where we also need those good softwares whereby it can be difficult for people to hack. Because if you can look in nowadays, how can people gain over secret information? It is baked by how the softwares that are being used, how strong they are.
I'm worried because what if Cheltaruna inkiwa and then we end up having the COVID-19 America, and then maybe you got money that you save, then only to find out it's a problem, it's a big problem, it's a big issue.
Ukanti ziliqela iinkampani esezikhe zazizisulu zokubelwa iinkcukacha kweli kule minyaka edlulileyo. Ngonyaka ka-2020 enye yezo nkampani zigcina amagama abathengi abahlulwa ngamatyala, i-Experian nayo yabethwa olungophiyo. Yabelwa izigidi ezingama-24 eenkcukacha. Oku kuquka namashishini aphantse angama-800,000. Emva kwesisiganeko laxhoma inani labantu abangamaxhoba okubelwa iinkcukacha zabo zoomazisi. Lo mkhuba ke uxhaphake kwihlabathi liphela, yaye eli loMzantsi Afrika lilahlekana ne-2 biliyoni yeerandi ngonyaka ngenxa yobusela beenkcukacha zabantu. Ubuninzi bamaxhoba alo mkhuba azibona sele entyumpantyumpeka ematyaleni abangawazi emveni kokubethwa olungophiyo. Ingcali ziqikelela ukuba ngumntu omnye kwabane abathi babezizisulu zobuqhophololo boluhlobo. Kwaye zithi obubukrelemnqa benzeka lula ngobuchwepheshe bekhompyutha. Ingaba ukubiwa kweenkcukacha eTransunion kuza kubachaphazela kangakanani na abathengi beli, kwaye zeziphi na izinto ekumele bezivundlele? Phaphama Changana Dube kwilungelo lakho.
Siyabonga kakhulu kwintokazi uPhaphama Dube ngalo mbiko. Manje ke mbukeli ukhuluma kabanzi ke ngale ndaba yethu. Asamukele ivakashi zethu namhlanje. We do have in studio with us the lovely Miss Doreen Mokoena. Yena ke onguchwepheshe wohlelo lwamakhompyutha we-Cybersec. Exhumana nathi ke futhi ngeZoom sinaye uManie van Schalkwyk. Yena ke umele abe South African Fraud Prevention Service. Doreen, welcome to the show. Siyakwamukela ntokazi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Manie, once again, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, Doreen, these are shocking numbers. Over 3 million South Africans affected ile heke lokhuzane yenzeke lapha neTransunion. I mean, obani laba kule 3 million esikhuluma ngabo?
In fact, it's more than 3 million.
It's 3 to 6 million.
3 to 6 million. So everybody that has a ID number in South Africa, everyone that has some sort of credit, has been affected, because now who is TransUnion? TransUnion is the company that houses your credit information, such that now when you need to apply for credit or for anything, TransUnion, then I'm a bank, and other
creditors.
They use that information to vet if you're actually credible for ilokuzana loans and credit. So now that information has been stolen and it's housed in a different region, which is not South Africa, which actually makes matters even worse. So how this hacking happened, it's so big and it's so massive, because now it stems back from what happened with Experience. So now they're just piggy banking on that information. And it's so sad that it would be on a public domain that anyone can just tap into it and do what they want with that information.
Manie, I mean, what do you read into this whole saga? Are there systems that are currently in place that are not properly vetted, particularly if you're going to be the housing or the biggest houser of personal information? Shouldn't you have better ways to protect that information?
I'm always a little bit scared to show a finger, because when one runs these databases, it really takes one clever hacker to overcome the cybersecurity around it, and then exposes the whole thing. I would rather leave that whole thing over to the poppy regulator and let them investigate what kind of security they were or were not. One needs to be very careful to judge that, because you never know when you're going to be next.
But Manie, what do you think then are the dangers? I mean, we saw in the insert there a lot of people that were commenting, they don't even know the why, the who, and the why the information is stored. So they're pretty much in the dark as to how this might actually potentially affect them. So it seems like we still need to drive that information or awareness around education for people to know that they need to be very cagey about their personal information. But obviously, in this case, they don't have a choice. This was information that was on the database.
Yes, and you're 100% correct. I think consumers need to be concerned. Their data is out there, and their data can be exploited. And, we need to ask, why do these hackers want to steal data?
Yes.
And the answer is they want to make money from it. And there are usually two ways that they can make money from our data. And that is to open accounts in your name, the first one. And the second one is to take over accounts, which is currently in your name. And through that thing, they make enough money that the attraction stays. And that's why data becomes such a commodity to be stolen.
I mean, uthini wena Doreen sengithi Dineo, uthini wena Doreen ngalento ukuthi uthi umani le data le can be exploited. Awusichazela mhlawumbe iziphi indlela ngiyamuzwa uyasho ukuthi bangaqala amanye ama account noma basebenzise information lena eyakho ngendlela abafuna ukuthi benze ngayo. Of course asazi ukuthi bazoyisebenzisa kanjani, but iziphi ezinye indlela abanga-exploita ngayo le data le abayitholile. Sizwile ukuthi bebecela imali like some sort of ransom, and ilokhuzana TransUnion did not want to come and play. So which is a result manje ukuthi ke information yabantu aba over 6 million iphumilise isezandleni zeziqelemqa.
So, you know, like as Manie has said that, you know, when it comes to the information regulator, they have what they call identifiable information, and your ID number, your name, your surname, your address, and your cell phone number is actually identifiable information, and that is one information that we need to keep very safe.
Absolutely.
Now, if it's out in the open, I mean, like the file server is very big that has been stored on the dark web, containing 6 million worth of personal information, and you can expect, as he said, you can expect accounts opened, you know, people can buy things with your name, they can do whatever that they want. And it's so ironic that TransUnion is the one that says subscribe to our to products that we have so that we can alert you when someone is now performing identity theft with your name. And now that themselves have been hacked, it's a very critical state within the information community. So we really need to be careful about the things that we tell people online, and the people that call us, you know, purporting to be from banks or from creditors. We need to probe further that obviously you have my ID, which is open in the public. What else do you have of me, so that you can really authenticate that you're from the specific you know, service that you came from.
Manie, maybe give us some context, if you can. I mean, how do you surmise that this massive hack actually happened at the extent of this cyber breach?
Yeah. So can I just want to link onto something that Doreen has mentioned, and I think that is very important, is that when people steal this data, it's not necessarily that they steal everything that they can open accounts. So what we can expect as consumers is that the fraudsters will sell this data, hackers will sell the data, and people will phone you, and they will pose as they will be phoning from the bank, for instance, to get more information. And usually, maybe I can just give you what we see, the kind of discussions that happen out there, is that somebody will pose and say, I'm phoning from the bank, and they will then offer information. That is the information that they stole. They will say, Mr. van Schalkwyk, I see you live on this address, this is your telephone number, and this is your email address. And that will give us confidence in some way or form that this person is really phoning from the bank. Then they will pose usually a problem and say, we see that this is a significant debit order that is coming off your bank account of 40,000 Rand. Should we stop it? So there's a fear factor. Of course, we will all say, yes, please stop it. And then the crux comes. That's when people are these fraudsters will say, I know I shouldn't ask you this, but my system just went down. Please give me your bank account detail again. I know I shouldn't ask you, but please give me your PIN again, because then I can help you immediately. And if you then say no, they will say no, but you will then, have this loss in your account, and you won't be able to reclaim it. So they really make it a very fearful situation, where we as consumers, the moment people start asking that questions, you should just put down the phone. Put down the phone and don't respond to that.
All right, and I think we'll get into more detail and context around that, because uyasho baba uManie lapho uthi bazonisabisa ababukeli bantshela ukuthi yazini uzolahlekelwa isamba semali engaka, ukuthi bazama ukuthi baconvince ukuthi ubanikeze leyo pin, uphinde futhi ubanike ID number of which mhlambe banayo, njengoba phela kuthiwa i-information yabantu aba over 6 million isisezandleni zalabantu abagangayo. All right, mbukeli 0117146918 7146919 consumer@sabc.co.za. Ngabe uyasaba wena lapho? Hey, siyabuya emva kwaleli khefu ngayindawo. Mbogeli, welcome back. Namhlanje ke sixoxa ngokuthi kwenzeke i-cyber hack lapha e-TransUnion, of which inkampani le ephethe imininingwane yenu eminingi emayelana nokuthi phela uhlala kuphi, ID yakho ubani, so that uma wena mufuna ukuthenga izinto ezifana nezikweletu njengezimoto noma izindlu bayayibona ke laba basendela amabhenki leyo information ukuthi wena how good are you in terms of credit wise. All right, so my guest today is Doreen Mokoena ovela e-Cybersec alongside Mr. Manie van Schalkwyk yenake uvela SA Fraud Prevention Services. Doreen, I mean, maybe let's extend on what Manie was saying in terms of ukuthi yenzeka kanjani le hack. Besikhuluma manje ngebreak about how easily social engineering actually happens. Mhlawumbe usichazela abantu emakhaya and ubathuse because clearly abantu emakhaya bafuna ukushiya bengaloganga off eintweni and they just let izinto zabo slide as if leyo information is not important.
True. So now what transpired with the TransUnion hack, if we remember, I think about a year or 2 years back, we had an incident of Experian getting hacked.
Yes.
And it was the very same
yes.
situation whereby now there's a ransom which is being demanded. And obviously that ransom was not paid. So within the hacking community, because there are hacker groups, now they found out to South Africa, it's one of the easiest targets when it comes to data breaches. So what transpired is the fact that now they had to go to that file server, and unfortunately the password for TransUnion was very simple to guess because it was actually password. Now that's how they got access to the TransUnion servers, and within that information that was actually found, they also got they got in touch with the information as a Home Affairs. And one thing that the hackers were now trying to do to prove authenticity of the information that they have, now they started leaking bits and pieces of information, and they threatened which they're going to leak information
on a wider scale.
Yeah. So what they did is they're called Notisec. Notisec, what they done is they got hold of two of IT publications in South Africa now because they wanted to prove that they are authentic, they are who they say they are. And now they wanted to leak some of the information that I have, which maybe they thought it was going to cause a panic, and that ransom was going to be paid in Bitcoins.
Okay.
And one of the ladies which was contacted, from Lakho was like, no, this is not my information. Who is the head of the information regulator said,
yes.
This is not my information, because what these guys wanted to do was to scare consumers into us paying that ransomware. And it happened because of weak, internal controls. A password cannot be password. Everybody knows that you need to be very safe online, and we all need to practice what is called digital hygiene. Now, if you go, if you do IT or you're IT manager and you do not have proper IT controls within your environment, you do pose risk of being hacked, and you need to practice international standards like the ISO 277, which says you need to be strong, your IT, the information that you have, it needs to be properly secured. And in the absence of that, we are where we are today as South Africans.
Mbogeli, please note ukuthi we had extended an invitation to TransUnion njengoba sikhuluma ngabo, but unfortunately hayi ukuthi banqabela ukuthi beze bathe ngoba le ndaba it's still under investigation, so abakhona ukuthi beze nathi bazokhuluma nathi namhlanje, but we will obviously try ukuthi sipush ukuthi sizame ukuthi understand ukuthi kwenzakaleni. Very interesting about that password. Manie, what do you think about this? I mean, Doreen mentioned something very, very interesting here. She says South Africa has now become easier targets for these hackers. But what do you think puts us in that position?
I'm not 100% sure. I think you should rather ask Doreen. I've got no idea why we would be less effective than the rest of the world.
Doreen?
Well, like I said, that how this hacking happened is the fact that now these hackers went back to the hacking community, and that's when they found the file server and the data dump that our information is still available online, and obviously no ransom was being paid. And the word is we are very we're easy place to hack, and indeed we are, because we do not put so much investment when it comes to cybersecurity and our internal controls. I mean, most companies need to have what we call the information security policy that governs how information needs to be taken care within an environment, and failure to do so, now that's when the information regulator comes and they want to impose fines of about 10 million rand because TransUnion did not take care of our personal information. They failed to take care of their internal controls. Yeah.
Manie, maybe just expand on that as well, and how easy the password was to get around. I mean, for such a huge organization to have something that is so easily accessible, I mean, we need to really start holding people to account here. But who?
Yeah. No, I agree fully. And you know, if it is true that the password on that file was just password, then I think it's totally unacceptable. And I think the regulator, you know, with the previous breach, which was or the compromise of the data, which was mentioned from Experian, I think at the time the regulator didn't have or were not formulated to that extent, but they have teeth at the time. But they've got it now. The regulator is fully functional, and I am sure that this must be on the highest of their priority to make sure that a full investigation is done, and to make the international world feel more at ease that South Africa is doing what it's supposed to do in terms of cybersecurity.
And Manie, while we're there, I mean, with the current legislation, I know we've spoken at great lengths, or obviously with other related topics with you, but what do you think, what are you able to tell us, like, what kind of existing penalties are there for data leaks?
Yeah, I think the information regulator can fine up to 10% of annual turnover, so it is significant. And no company can just afford that. But I think that will only be used when the regulator find there to be negligence or gross negligence. You know, we saw various other leaks during the year and later last year from you know, banks. We saw banks being hacked and compromised. And I'm not too sure what the fines were at the time, but I think you need to take all the factors into consideration before the regulator makes those kind of decisions.
Doreen, asikhulume ngale regulator, ubani ozolokhuza information regulator or bazoblame abani, and awusichazele mhlambe if there's any legislation ezothi mhlambe kuzogcina sekuthiwa okay, wena you are responsible for this, but at the end of the day leyo nto ngeke isize lama consumers who are already exposed.
Sure. You know, fortunately for us, we do have a legislation, or rather an act, which is the Papaya Act, you know, which came into effect about last year. So now what the Papaya Act says is the fact that we should be responsible for how we govern people's information, and failure to do so, you know, it has very bad ramifications. For instance, now it's either 10 million rands fine or 10 years imprisonment. And now, at this point in time, you know, if it happens that TransUnion is found guilty, they can look at things like, you know, criminal prosecution because they failed to protect our information. And we do have the Cyber Crimes Act in South Africa, and we do have the cyber, you know, so we do have the Cyber Crime Act, obviously. But now what that says, it criminalizes, you know, theft in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of the cyber world. So we do have remedies for consumers, you know, like, you know, we have SABC as well, you know, that assists with that. But for now, I mean, unfortunately, we're currently on our own, because now we need to govern and we need to take head of our own information and how we then respond to these people who maybe like try to call us, you know, try to send us spoofing emails and phishing emails, trying to get us to reveal more of ourselves than what they already have. Yeah.
All right. Mbukeli uyaxwayiswa ke lapho ukuthi yazini awuzama ukuthi mebekufonela nje abantu bepretend ukuthi bayibhenki noma umuntu omkweletayo uzama ukuthi uzwisise indaba yabo before ubanikeza all the relevant information because njengoba kunje asazi ukuthi who exactly has been affected. Make 6 million people is a huge number. I mean, we've got a lot of credit active South Africans la eMzansi. So please people be careful. Siyabonga kwaleli careful. Welcome back. 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. Consumer at sabc.co.za. We're talking about the recent hack. Your information lapho kubekwe khona wonke ama record enu ukuthi ukhokha kahle, ukhokha kanje, wenza ini. Apparently over 6 million South Africans are affected. My guest today is Doreen Mokoena ovela Cybersec alongside Mr. Manie van Schalkwyk ovela SA Fraud Prevention Services. Anonymous from Gauteng, sakwamukela ohlelweni.
Unjani?
Hi, how are you?
I think maybe you still remember me. The guy was reported the body corporates.
Yes, sir.
The fraud in the body corporates. I like you must do it again.
Yes,
the fraud in the body corporates. You must also do the show again. Now we like to talk about the hacker. Why our own president can't do something about it? When you go for COVID-19, people need your ID number. When you go to a doctor, people need your ID number. So our ID numbers is not any more safe. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Anonymous.
I said our ID numbers is not any more safe because I was not long ago by a doctor and he take my ID number. I don't know. And the COVID and in some of the chemists and shops also take your ID number.
All right.
You understand?
Yes,
and it's
Anonymous.
not going about the ID number. Why our president can't pull his socks and do something about it, about this fraud? Because this thing is supposed, and also the Minister from Health is not supposed to telling us we must give our ID numbers where we go. And we are not happy about this thing, you understand?
Yes.
So from my side, the consumer must also do something to solve this problem. We got problems forever and ever with this fraud. I get a message not long ago on my cell phone. You must come to OPSA. They will give a breakfast for you. Only do give me your details and that and that and that. And then I fix my thing by myself, you know. That is fraud. You understand? To get your bank details and stuff.
Yes. Anonymous,
and
thank you so much.
In the banks. And
Yes.
the banks also, he ask for your ID numbers. Why he asking for your ID numbers?
All right, Anonymous, thank you so much for your contributions. Sir, once again, Anonymous is from here in Gauteng Production. He says, can we please have that topic on fraud in a body corporate? Any comments there, Doreen? I know, Guti, it's a bit, you know, but I mean, it sounds concerning. He says he went for a COVID test or a vaccination and they wanted his ID. Like going to the doctor nowadays, you have to have your ID. Well, we suppose that is a way to identify you, but I think he's coming in a way that, as my doctor, shouldn't you have that information available already? And he's even mentioning some of the pharmaceutical companies where you can actually go and get your vaccination.
True.
They want that information.
Yeah.
So he's like, why can't I just go jab? Because you don't need my ID to see that I've jabbed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, different entities have different processes, you know, internally and in-house. So for me to identify that you are who you say you are, obviously I will need your ID number. But again, we need to be wary of the kind of information that we give online, because what he mentioned about the SMS that he received, that he must come to ABSA for breakfast.
For breakfast, imagine.
That is classic. That is classic phishing attempts, because one thing I know for sure is that I don't think ABSA will invite people for breakfast.
Personally.
And I mean, but other measures that we can take to ascertain that whatever communication that we receive is from the said institution. First of all, we can look at the domain names. You know, ABSA, we know that the domain name is .africa, FNP it's .co.za, and I know they can never send me a SMS that starts with a 07 number. It's uncalled for. So it goes back to the consumer.
Consumers also need to be more vigilant. Yeah.
Consumers need to be vigilant. There are things that banks won't necessarily do unless, of course, that information comes from your relationship banker or your private banker. But, I mean, receiving an SMS at 2 a.m. saying that you must come to ABSA for breakfast it's classic, it's classic crime. So I think we also need to be wary of phishing attempts as well.
I think we've also had some stories in the studio from the crew as well. They're saying they're receiving certain SMSs saying that they need to come and claim certain amounts of money.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the typical ways that these hackers will now use this information, is what you're saying, Doreen.
Yeah.
All right. So, Manie, I want to understand from you. Look, I understand that TransUnion data is actually not even held on the South African shores. Isn't that a security problem on its own? We're just talking with Doreen here off air because we now surmise that obviously the legislation is automatically not going to govern them wherever they are as in the same way that it would govern them if they were here in South Africa.
Yeah, I do think they will definitely fall under the POPI regulator in South Africa. The company is definitely registered here. Their head office as the mother company is a American company, as is the Experian, which is a UK-based company. But the local companies are definitely registered in South Africa. And will be scrutinized and will fall under the South African laws. So there's no doubt.
All right. And Manie, while we're there, I mean, we know that, I know you've said this multiple times, that there will always be that one innovative hacker out there who's just one step ahead. How can you now advise these organizations as well as consumers to protect themselves?
Well, a couple of things for consumers, and I think those are my primary concern, is that I just want to remind the consumers that SAFPS is a not-for-profit organization. And we have got a free-of-charge product where you can add another layer of protection on your identity by using your smartphone. Go to our website, which is safps.org.za, and you go onto, it says, protect your identity. And we will ask you some questions. You need to take a photo of your ID, take a photo of yourself, and we compare this with what we get from the Department of Home Affairs. And then we provide you with a protective registration letter, which includes a number, and how it works, how it protects you as the consumer, as when you apply for credit at a bank or a retailer, that this member will receive, this bank will receive a notification from ourselves to say this consumer wants an additional layer of protection. And they will then pause that credit transaction and ask for either the protective registration number that we provide to you, or they would ask for more identification, etc. So when the fraudster tries to apply in your name, that they won't have this additional information.
This is so interesting.
We will urge consumers to do that. safps.org.za.
All right, hold it there. That is very interesting, Manie. Thank you so much. And mbukela uzwileke ukuthi uManie uyachaza ukuthi bayakhona bona njengelokhuzana njenge-organization yabo ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi bavikele information yakho, just an extra protective layer. Hamba kwi-website yabo uzokwazi na ukuthi u-apply for that. Asithatha uBongani eGermiston before siya kwikhefu. Nsizwa, ngakwamukela hleleni umbuzo noma umbone? Bongani?
Yebo, sengibingelela.
Kunjani baba?
Hayi sikhona senza ukuthi.
Ngiyaphila nsizwa yami. Uthini wena
Okay, my point, I'm from Germiston. My point is, TransUnion is guilty for risking the data of consumers in South Africa. Remember, currently we are facing attacks from illegal immigrants who are using fraud about our name. So TransUnion must be shut down, must be closed. permanently. I thank you.
All right, siyabonga kakhulu but Bongani wena mbukeli ufuna ukuthini 011-714-6918-714-6919 consumer@sabc.co.za uthini wena ngokuthi sihekhiwe information yakhe yantaza le itratini ongazazi eMerica eCanada kubukuphi nalabo engakwazi khona ukuthi unjani ebusweni siyabuya emva kwaleli khefu. Oh my goodness, what an interesting show. Mbukeli sikhuluma. It's not even just interesting. Izinto uDoreen angitshela zona off air bakwethu zingathusa nombani izokwenza ukuthi ucabange indlela that you do yonke i-online activity yakho mbukeli because sis Doreen uyabathusa ngempela. Before we get into that Doreen, I want to take Goodness from Empangeni. Sis Goodness, thank you so much for ukubamba ucingo Ntokazi. Singakusiza kanjani namhlanje?
Nami ngiyabonga ukungena. Inkinga yami ke mina kunalabantu abavula ama-account ngegama lami.
Okay.
Bavula ama-account ngegama lami zonke iy'tolo and I never lost any of my ID.
How?
Mangabe and I registered with that South African fraud leyo nikhuluma ngayo lapha. I registered with it. They issued me a letter yokuthi mangiyovula i-credit then ngizobashowisha yona. But now these people, they keep on doing this thing. When I call them back, we thought law fraud line there. But it's because these people, they open my account online. That's why I was moving.
How? Kanjani? Okay, sis Goodness siyabonga ngathi ngibuza uMani ukuthi kwenzakalani. Manie, Goodness from Empangeni says she actually went on your website and registered for that extra protective layer of, I suppose, of cushioning against fraudsters and stuff. But she says there's been a continued activities where people that she does not know are opening accounts under her details. And then when she says, when she goes back to ask you guys, I think she was told that these people are doing it online. Actually, they're opening the accounts online, so it's not in person.
Yeah, it's regardless whether people open it up online or in person is irrelevant to the situation. The members would get the notification from us, and then they need to decide how they want to manage it. So I can tell you now, the diligent members who wants to protect the information will store that application, and it's I can add to it. So there's a manual process. So some members will say stop the transaction and ask for additional verification. Some members would put that application into a different queue and perform, say, verifications on the back end of the system. So they will try not to inconvenience the consumer. So there are various ways of doing it, but the principle stands is that a notification is sent to that member to say there's an additional barrier that you need to overcome, and that inlays the protection. There are some credit providers which are not necessarily members of SAFPS, not a lot, but they are. I'm quite happy for the consumer to contact us, say tomorrow. Maybe I can get the details from you, and just to get the facts so I can get it in my mind correctly.
All right. Okay, sis Goodness, ama producers wethu anayi information yakho uthi uMani ucela ukuthi uzothola inamba zakho la kuthina, so ucela ukuthi aqhumane nawe kusasa ezobona ukuthi icase yakho ichaza ukuthini, njengoba echaza ukuthi kunezigaba ezahlukile uma usutholile lelokhuzana le protection, this extra protection, uyasho nokuthi bekumele ngabe uthole i-notification ukuthi usuku lesi sigaba. So siyacela ke Ntokazi u-expect i-call evela kuMani. Now, before siya kwi-break break, Doreen, ubongani uthe ayibhenwe i-TransUnion because they have basically made us vulnerable by allowing ama-hackers ukuthi bangene bathole information of which they should have been guarding with their lives, essentially.
True.
What is your opinion?
I mean, it's unfortunate that, I mean, TransUnion is here and it has been here for years. You know, I think it was here before I was even born.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for it to just be made our way just like that, it's going to be a very difficult task for us, you know. But again, everything stems with us. How do we then protect ourselves online? Because obviously the information is
online futhi usichazele ngesiZulu Doreen yazi abantu bami bathi bafuna ukuzwisisa kahle la sizi protecta kanjani ke everybody on a phone eno Google enawo wonke lama apps uthe kumina mungena la wathi Alisha ngangena efonini yakho ngikutshela ukuthi adwenzani nobani izolo nama steps owathathile ukuthi uhambe uyoyikhulula I mean usichazele yini into esingayenza ukuthi senze sure ukuthi leyo information ayiphumeli kwi third party.
You know, with services like Google, there are controls that you can turn off. You know, it's permissions. Just like your phone has permissions. So we have this thing which when we download maybe any platform, you know, it will ask us, do you allow this software to track your activity, to do whatever? So you just need to be wary of that before you click yes. You just need to know what is it that they are tracking. What information am I giving? What permissions am I allowing?
Asifunda ukufunda Doreen lento ithi mivela kumele uagree but kumele ufunda ama terms and conditions that are like another 40 pages and labantu bafuna ukungena lapha baye kwi app abafuna ukuya kuyona like immediately.
Unfortunately, that is our weakness. You understand? At the end, because this now is a free product that is given to us, we become the price, you know. Data is actually the new currency right now. So how you protect yourself and how you give away your data, it's all up to you. Just remember, do not click on everything. Read. It's something esingayithanda. Terms and conditions are very lengthy.
Deny it all.
But,
deny it all up until wazi ukuthi lena kahle because ezinye ezokutshela ukuthi if you deny ukuthi ba collect i-data ukuthi kade ukuphi kusho ukuthi a certain i-app leyo ngeke izisebenze ngendlela ezogculazisa. Mbukele, let's take our final break. Siyabuya khona manje ungayindawo. Mbukele, it's our final segment. Othi ngithatha ikhola yami yokugcina uBhutmandla eFree State. Bhutmandla siyabonga kakhulu insizwa ukuthi ubambile kuline. Awuthi qaba nje njengamafu.
Ngithi nami ngibuze la ngithe ngiyavula lana ngithola ukuthi ngikhuluma kuno sisi nami ongifonele lapha kwiviki besesiloma kangifonela uvele wakhuluma njengomuntu ongaziyo wathi kimi ngomandla ngine talk shop ngisebenzela phakathi ejardini ekhaya wathi mina ngine talk shop ngavuma wacela i-ID number yami ukuthi kunento abafuna ukunisiza ngayo bafuna ukunisa ku-training ngambuza mina ukuthi manje i-training yani ngoba mina ngaya ku-training wathi no kune-training okumele niyenze ngikhame ngabe i-ID number yami ngamnikeza i-ID number yami wathi ngoba ukuthi selimnikile uzathola i-message eshoyo ukuthi ngimukilekile isale ngilindele i-message zange ngize ngiyithole ngoba kaloko nginokufonela omunye futhi ngifonela alokathi kimi nje i-consumer manje mina angazi i-consumer lokuthi ichaza ukuthini ngoba mangithi ngiyalalela uvela group phone nawo naba umafoni njengathatha ngabhala phansi laba angifonelayo we-consumer.
Thank you so much, Bhutmandla. I mean, maybe Manie, make that your exit point because we're really out of time. Mandla says he got a call in the recent week, some lady purporting to be from a bank, and then I think they were offering some services. But he says he had to give his ID number, and he unfortunately gave it to this person. But then he realized only later that now, you know what, this person might not be who they are presenting themselves to be. So in that situation, Manie, where you know you've given information that you shouldn't have, what is the best and quickest way to then remedy that situation?
Yeah, well, I would give just two things, is get the protective registration, as I mentioned, and then ironically, my advice would be to get a credit bureau report. You know, make sure that you get your credit bureau reports regularly so that you can see if there are accounts opened in your name which you didn't apply for.
Okay.
So, and when that does come up, then you can dispute that.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Manie. We're going to leave it there with you very quickly, Doreen. How can we help consumers? What is the best thing to do in that situation that Mandla finds himself in? Ungabacebisa uthini wena?
As Manie said, that it's very imperative for consumers to have second factor authentication, be it on your phone or on your computer, and even on your identity as well. You know, register with such service providers. Make sure that you know everything that happens within your identity.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate, once the account has been open, it's then added into your credit profile, and disputing that takes years or months. But for now, the best thing that you can ever do for yourself is apply authentications level that will then protect you as a consumer as well.
All right, Doreen Mokoena of Cybersec alongside Mr. Manie van Schalkwyk of the SA Fraud Prevention Services. Manie, thank you so much once again. You've been very helpful this afternoon, as you have been now. We hope, we know we've just touched on the subject, but siyacela ukuthi nibe vigilant, nizwile ukuthi kunezindlela lezi engakhona ukuthi nizivikele. Aniyekeni ukunikeza abantu ama-ID numbers nama-pin over the phone. Umajali uyanithanda abantu bakithi, nisale kahle emakhaya.